Hey guys, let's get more news about Warriors, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Insider reveals how close Warriors are to Lauri Markkanen trade. The Golden State Warriors have been linked to Utah Jazz star Lauri Markkanen. With his extended trade deadline on August 6, many wonder how that situation will go. No matter how it turns out, ESPN's Bobby Marks reported that, despite the Warriors' interest, a trade has never come all that close. The Golden State Warriors have been the most aggressive suitor for Markkanen, but Utah and Golden State have not come close to getting a deal done, Marks wrote in an August 5 story. Marks also explained the hang-ups from the Warriors' end, which is why a deal might not happen. One source told ESPN the Warriors have been very protective of second-year guard Brandon Podziemski, the player on Golden State's roster who most intrigues the Jazz. Golden State has also not indicated an inclination to meet the Jazz's high threshold for draft compensation in return. Markkanen has plenty of appeal because he's an all-star caliber at 27. More than that, he's a floor-stretching big man who can create his own shot. However, the Warriors have a limited window for another title. Markkanen would help them, but they may not think it's worth trading for him if he can't raise their ceiling enough to help them win a title. Yahoo Sports. Jake Fisher explained what Markkanen's contract situation is like and why it's relevant for a potential trade. If Markkanen waits to sign his new deal until Wednesday, August 7, or later, Markkanen won't be eligible to be traded during this upcoming 2024-25 season, Fisher wrote in an August 5 story. He wouldn't be eligible to be traded for 6 months after his new agreement, in accordance with the collective bargaining, which would fall one day after the February 6 trade deadline. It was similarly crucial for Cavaliers center Jarrett Allen to sign his extension August 2, leaving him available for a trade for 4 days prior to the deadline. Fisher added that Markkanen intends to do that knowing that he can't be traded mid-season. All indications, though, are that Markkanen intends to delay his signature for that exact purpose, league sources told Yahoo Sports. Markkanen, then, can essentially remove himself from the trade landscape until next summer. This will mean that the Warriors would have to wait an entire season to try to get their hands on Markkanen. Not only that, but by the time they do, his contract will be much more expensive. If Markkanen won't be available, the Warriors will have to look at other stars who they can acquire via trade. Other stars include Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram, who are reportedly available. Acquiring them would not be an easy decision to make because they might not make them title contenders. There are non-stars who the Warriors could acquire, like Jeremy Grant or Kyle Kuzma. The Warriors have done a solid job filling out their rotation with quality free agents. Another solid rotation player would help them, but a star would be helpful. Golden State's best move going forward is likely waiting until a star becomes available mid-season. That is when Markkanen is taken off the table. Golden State Warriors on the verge of striking out as NBA title window closes rapidly. The Golden State Warriors were close to acquiring future Hall of Fame forward Paul George early this offseason. They just could not work out a deal with the rival Los Angeles Clippers, leading to George opting out of his deal and signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Fresh off missing out on the playoffs for the third time in 5 seasons, the Warriors have been linked to big-name player all summer. Nothing has come to fruition on that end. Instead, Golden State lost 4-time NBA champion Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks. In his stead, the Warriors brought in Anthony Melton, Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield. While decent additions, they are not needle movers in a tough Western Conference. Meanwhile, Golden State continues to be in talks with the Utah Jazz about a blockbuster trade for all-star big man Lauri Markkanen. There is not a great update in this regard, either. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports reported earlier on Monday that Markkanen is likely to sign an extension with Utah. Said deal will come after August 6, meaning that he won't be eligible to be dealt during the 2024-25 NBA season. Read more about those details here. What does this mean for Golden State? Does the team has other options? There is a lot that can happen between now and opening night in October. But things don't look great right now. This has to be considered a major backdrop to everything that's happening in San Francisco. Golden State lost to the Sacramento Kings in the NBA play-in tournament last season. Even with Thompson in the mix, this did not look like a legitimate title contender. Since then, general manager Mike Dunleavy has refused to include youngsters Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga in trade talks. In short, the Warriors brass is going with two different timelines. That is to say, short-term contention and long-term relevance. It has not paid off since they won the NBA title back in June of 2022. New Orleans Pelicans wing Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine of the Chicago Bulls are two of the biggest names available right now. Would either of them make the Warriors title contenders? It's an open question. Outside of that, there is not a lot to write home about. We could see a star player request to be traded within the next 2 months. It's something that has happened late in the summer each of the past few years. Obviously, the Warriors would be linked to said player. For now, Golden State is on the verge of striking out this summer. And in reality, that could be the end of its title contention, with Stephen Curry hitting the back end of his career. A last-ditch Warriors-Jazz trade to pry Lauri Markkanen out of Utah before it's too late. The Golden State Warriors are, and stop me if you've heard this before, the most ardent Lauri Markkanen suitors, per the latest intel from Mark Stein. That is not necessarily new news, but the conversation around Markkanen has shifted drastically in recent days. All signs point toward the Utah Jazz re-upping the Finnish All-Stars contract. Markkanen wants to stay in Salt Lake City, and Golden State still hasn't offered Brandon Podziemski or Jonathan Kuminga. Stated plainly, Danny Ainge isn't one to get punked. The Warriors can offer all the draft picks in the world, but there's not a timeline in which this trade goes through without Podziemski or Kuminga in the return package. You have to give something to get something. Golden State can't keep its youth movement intact and acquire Markkanen to run alongside Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. Time is running out. Markkanen reportedly wants to sign his extension after August 6, which would make him ineligible to be traded until next offseason. The Warriors only have a couple days left to negotiate a deal and pry Markkanen out of Utah. The odds are looking increasingly slim, but the NBA always has a surprise in store. If the Warriors are still placing calls, we cannot rule them out of the Markkanen sweepstakes. Here's what a trade would have to look like. This sort of package forces Utah's hand and puts Markkanen in a suddenly competitive Warriors lineup. This is a baseline. It could take even more from Golden State. That is how good Markkanen is, and how little pressure the Jazz face to trade him. It's clear both sides are comfortable with the partnership continuing, so the Warriors are fighting to disrupt the status quo and force change. That requires serious commitment. The Warriors love Podziemski, presumably for the same reasons that Utah has prioritized him in negotiations. There's no way of knowing the precise nature of trade talks so far, but it sure seems as though it's Podziemski or bust for Utah. The Jazz aren't trading their best player without acquiring the Warriors' best prospect. Podziemski was highly impressive in his first NBA season, earning All-Rookie honors and a spot on the U.S. national select team. His numbers don't leap off the screen: 9.2 points, 5.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists on .454/.385/.633 splits in 26.6 minutes, but Podziemski does so much well. He's a major upside play, but he's also rock solid right now. He can help grease the wheels on Utah's offense from day one. A wing trapped in a guard's body, Podziemski rebounds at a high level for his position and supplies quality team defense. He's not a point guard, but he's a sharp playmaker who connects dots and processes the floor at a high level. Podziemski's feel, shot making, and motor all make him an easy investment. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Lauri Markkanen? Leave your opinion in the comments.